The 1980s gave us bright colors, bold heroes, and Saturday mornings filled with endless animation. But behind the laughter and toy tie-ins lurked shadows of controversy. Parents complained, politicians raged, and networks pulled shows under pressure. Some cartoons vanished overnight. Others returned as cult classics. So, were these harmless adventures or dangerous influences? Let's uncover 24 cartoons of the 1980s that sparked outrage and panic. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, 1983. When it first aired, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was a cultural juggernaut. A blend of sword and sorcery and futuristic tech, it told the tale of Prince Adam, who transformed into the mighty He-Man to defend Eternia. Children adored its catchphrases, action, and colorful villains like Skeletor. But controversy arrived quickly. Critics argued the show was little more than a 30-minute commercial for Mattel toys. Advocacy groups accused it of warping children's imaginations with consumerism disguised as storytelling. Others claimed its battles promoted violence, while conservative voices whispered about the occult imagery of sorcery and magic. Behind the scenes, networks panicked when watchdog organizations targeted the cartoon, leading to hearings about marketing ethics. Some countries even restricted its broadcast, deeming it inappropriate for children. Yet despite the backlash, He-Man endured, spawning a franchise that extended into comics, movies, and endless merchandise. Its legacy is twofold, a nostalgic symbol of childhood fun and a prime example of the blurred line between art and advertising. He-Man's sword may have defended Eternia, but in the real world it cut open debates about media's power to shape young minds. G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero, 1983. When G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero hit screens, it was celebrated as patriotic, thrilling, and packed with action. Each episode delivered a battle between America's elite fighting force and the terrorist group Cobra. Its characters, from Duke to Snake Eyes, became icons of 1980s youth culture. But parents and critics soon raised red flags. The cartoon faced complaints about glorifying war and militarism. Unlike slapstick violence in earlier shows, G.I. Joe showcased futuristic weapons, tactical combat, and explosions that seemed all too real. Advocacy groups accused the show of grooming children for a culture of endless conflict. On top of that, watchdogs claimed the cartoon's connection to Hasbro toys meant it wasn't art at all, but calculated advertising. Behind closed doors, some episodes were even censored or rewritten for foreign audiences uneasy with overt American nationalism. And despite the creators' attempt to soften violence by ensuring nobody ever dies, parents remained skeptical. Politicians, too, questioned whether war-themed cartoons belonged on children's programming blocks. Yet G.I. Joe persisted, embedding phrases like "knowing is half the battle" into pop culture. Its legacy remains complicated, a beloved adventure for millions, yet a lightning rod for debates over war, consumerism, and the messages hidden in children's entertainment. Thundercats, 1985. When Thundercats debuted, it felt like a thunderbolt. The saga of Lion-O and his feline heroes fighting Mumm-Ra combined fantasy, sci-fi, and mystical undertones. Kids were enthralled by the Sword of Omens, its call of Thundercats ho, and dazzling animation. But its very themes soon drew complaints. Parents worried about occult imagery, with critics pointing to the mystical rituals of Mumm-Ra as too frightening for children. Religious groups warned that its use of ancient symbols carried dangerous undertones. Others called it too violent, noting the sword fights and battles felt more intense than Saturday morning fare should allow. Behind the scenes, production faced pressure to tone down darker elements. Networks debated cutting scenes that showcased Mumm-Ra's grotesque transformations. Some regions even restricted its broadcast, citing inappropriate spiritual content. Yet, despite controversy, the cartoon's artistry and storytelling gave it resilience. Over time, Thundercats became a cult classic, its fan base growing stronger with nostalgia. The very controversy that once threatened it only fueled its mystique. To many, it was proof that children could handle complex worlds, where good and evil weren't just painted in pastels, but shaded in shadows and mystery. Transformers, 1984. Transformers began as an ambitious blend of Japanese toy designs and American storytelling. Autobots versus Decepticons, Optimus Prime against Megatron, it became one of the defining cartoons of the decade. Children marveled at robots turning into cars, jets, and weapons, but the show also became a lightning rod for criticism. Once again, watchdogs accused it of being nothing more than a toy commercial. Advocacy groups claimed it blurred the line between storytelling and consumer manipulation. Meanwhile, parents worried about the level of violence, laser battles, exploding cities, and recurring themes of war between alien factions. The most heated controversy came with Transformers. The movie in 1986, when Optimus Prime was killed off in brutal fashion. Outraged parents flooded studios with complaints that such trauma was unfair for young audiences. Some even claimed their children were emotionally devastated, leading to revisions in future storylines. Behind the scenes, Hasbro executives faced internal panic. The backlash forced them to rethink toy-line-driven deaths and softened the approach in later series. Still, Transformers endured, surviving countless reboots and adaptations. Its legacy is bittersweet, a symbol of how cartoons could build vast empires, yet also how they could scar the very children they entertained. She-Ra, Princess of Power, 1985. Launched as a spin-off to Tana's to He-Man, She-Ra. Princess of Power aimed to capture a female audience. Princess Adora, twin sister of Prince Adam, led a rebellion against the tyrannical horde. Girls adored her strength, dazzling outfits, and magical powers. But complaints quickly emerged. Some parents claimed She-Ra's skimpy costumes and glowing transformations were inappropriate for young viewers. Religious groups accused the show of promoting sorcery and rebellion against authority. Critics argued it continued the troubling trend of mixing entertainment with toy advertising, this time targeting young girls. Behind the curtain, Mattel faced immense pressure to make She-Ra both empowering and marketable. Writers often clashed with executives over how much action and violence could be included. Some episodes were softened, others altered entirely. Yet, despite these struggles, She-Ra carved out a loyal audience, becoming a symbol of female empowerment in an era where few existed in children's media. Its legacy is powerful, both celebrated as groundbreaking and condemned as exploitative. For some, She-Ra was an icon of strength. For others, she was proof that even in children's cartoons, the battle for hearts and minds was never free from controversy. The Smurfs, 1981. At first glance, the Smurfs seemed harmless. Tiny blue creatures living in a magical forest, led by Papa Smurf, it quickly became one of the most popular cartoons of the 1980s. Children adored its whimsical adventures, catchy songs, and colorful cast. But critics weren't convinced. Some parents accused the show of being laced with hidden symbolism. Religious groups complained about Papa Smurf's red hat and beard, calling him a Marxist figure leading a communist utopia. Others whispered that Gargamel's dark rituals introduced children to sinister themes. Even academic critics claimed it promoted conformity, with individuality often punished in the Smurf village. Behind the scenes, Hanna-Barbera defended the cartoon as innocent fun. Yet debates raged in newspapers, parent groups, and even churches. The controversy only fueled curiosity, making the Smurfs more popular. In some countries, networks briefly considered dropping it, fearing backlash. In the end, the show endured, running nearly a decade and cementing its place in pop culture. Its legacy remains fascinating. A sweet little cartoon accused of carrying deep, even dangerous undertones. For many, it's proof that no matter how innocent something looks, controversy will always find its way. Jem and the Holograms, 1985. Jem and the Holograms electrified Saturday mornings with its neon hair, glam rock outfits, and high-tech adventures. Jerrica Benton's transformation into Jem, a pop superstar powered by holograms, thrilled audiences. It was bold, stylish, and aimed directly at girls. But its boldness sparked backlash. Parent groups argued the show promoted materialism, fashion obsession, and shallow celebrity culture. Others claimed the rival, banned the misfits, encouraged antisocial behavior. Some even complained that the fast-paced animation and music video-style editing overstimulated children, making it too chaotic for young minds. Behind the scenes, Hasbro pushed hard for tie-in dolls, turning episodes into marketing platforms. Critics quickly labeled it an extended toy commercial, reigniting debates about consumer manipulation in children's programming. Networks received waves of complaints, yet kids couldn't get enough. Though canceled after only a few seasons, Jem refused to disappear. Reruns gained cult status, inspiring generations with its unique blend of fashion, music, and empowerment. The controversy faded, but the whispers remain. Was it empowering girls with confidence, or programming them to buy into the glamour of an empty dream? Voltron, Defender of the Universe, 1984. Voltron stormed onto American TV, bringing Japanese animation to Western audiences. Combining giant robot lions into one massive warrior, it captured the imaginations of countless children. Its theme of teamwork against intergalactic villains seemed harmless enough. Yet controversy wasn't far behind. Parents voiced alarm over the violence. Sword clashes, space battles, and exploding enemies felt too intense for Saturday mornings. Some watchdog groups argued it glorified war, while others criticized its darker storylines, adapted from Japanese anime that was often more violent than U.S. standards allowed. Behind the curtain, U.S. producers censored numerous episodes, editing out deaths and heavy violence. Still, hints of its darker origins slipped through, leading to parental complaints. Critics also raised alarms about the marketing strategy, accusing the show of being another elaborate commercial for toys. Despite all the noise, Voltron thrived. Its striking visuals and epic battles created a loyal fanbase that never faded. Today, it's remembered both as a gateway to anime in the West and as a flashpoint in debates over violence in children's media. For some, it was inspiration. For others, proof that cartoons were becoming far too dangerous. The Real Ghostbusters, 1986. Spinning off from the blockbuster movie, The Real Ghostbusters brought spooky fun to Saturday mornings. With ghost-catching gadgets, ghoulish villains, and witty banter, it quickly became a hit. But with its supernatural themes, complaints rolled in. Parents and religious groups accused the show of normalizing ghosts, demons, and occult forces. Some argued the monsters were too frightening, citing nightmares among children. Others complained about dark humor that felt inappropriate for a young audience. Behind the scenes, ABC faced constant pressure to tone things down. The design of certain ghosts was softened, and storylines were rewritten to avoid overtly frightening imagery. Still, some episodes pushed boundaries, leading to recurring controversies. Despite this, the show lasted 7 seasons, proving its staying power. It balanced comedy and horror, inspiring kids with ghost-hunting adventures. Its legacy is layered, a beloved series that walked a razor-thin line between fun scares and parental outrage. To many, it showed how even comedy could spark fears of hidden dangers in children's imaginations. Captain Planet and the Planeteers, 1989. Unlike most cartoons of its era, Captain Planet and the Planeteers wasn't about toy sales. It was about saving the world. 5 teens with elemental powers combined to summon Captain Planet, a superhero fighting pollution and greed. It was ambitious, educational, and moral-driven. But even good intentions faced backlash. Parents complained the show was too political. Industry groups accused it of anti-business propaganda, targeting corporations as villains. Some schools praised it, while others criticized its oversimplified messages about complex issues. For children, the environmental lectures often clashed with their desire for fast-paced action. Behind the scenes, Ted Turner's influence kept the project alive, despite network hesitation. Writers often clashed with executives over how far they could push environmental themes. Episodes tackling deforestation, nuclear waste, and corporate corruption sparked heated debates in the press. Yet, despite the criticism, Captain Planet carved out a unique place in pop culture. It was both mocked and admired, remembered for its earnest moral lessons and its unforgettable catchphrase, "The power is yours." To some, it was ahead of its time. To others, it was proof that even cartoons with good intentions could stir political storms. Inspector Gadget, 1983. Inspector Gadget seemed like lighthearted fun at first glance. The bumbling cyborg detective, packed with endless gadgets hidden in his trench coat, was a hit with children worldwide. His misadventures, alongside Niece Penny and Dog Brain, blended comedy and crime fighting into a formula that captivated Saturday mornings. But as with many 1980s cartoons, controversy soon followed. Parents' groups began to complain about the show's depictions of violence and incompetence. Inspector Gadget often found himself dangling from cliffs, dodging explosions, or fumbling with malfunctioning technology. Critics argued these stunts trivialized danger, potentially teaching children recklessness. Others pointed to the shadowy villain Dr. Claw, whose ominous presence and sinister lair struck some as too frightening for young viewers. Behind the scenes, writers faced challenges balancing humor with action. Networks pressured the creators to soften scenes that leaned too heavily into dark crime themes. Rumors swirled that certain episodes were heavily edited for international broadcasts, particularly those where Gadget's blunders nearly caused fatal outcomes. Despite the backlash, the show endured and became a global icon. Its catchphrases, quirky gadgets, and theme song cemented its place in pop culture. Yet its legacy is layered, beloved by millions, but also remembered as a lightning rod in debates over whether children's comedy could disguise dangerous messages. For some, it was innocent fun. For others, a ticking controversy. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1987. When Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles hit the airwaves, it was an explosion of pizza, martial arts, and mutated reptiles. Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael quickly became household names, fighting Shredder and his Foot Clan while delivering wisecracks and humor. It was an instant pop culture phenomenon, but also one of the most controversial cartoons of the late 80s. Parents and watchdog groups quickly raised concerns about the show's violence. Sword fights, nunchucks, and ninja combat were seen as glorifying martial arts and aggression. Some countries went even further. Britain, for instance, censored the word ninja, replacing it with hero and even editing out Michelangelo's nunchucks. Critics argued that the cartoon pushed children toward imitation, sparking playground injuries. Behind the scenes, producers scrambled to meet international demands for edits. Episodes were altered, dialogue softened, and fight scenes toned down. Yet the complaints kept coming, with advocacy groups also accusing the show of being another elaborate toy marketing campaign, designed to sell action figures rather than tell meaningful stories. Still, the franchise's popularity only grew. Despite being accused of corrupting youth, the Turtles became global icons, spawning movies, video games, and countless reboots. Its legacy remains a paradox, one of the most beloved cartoons in history, yet also one of the most censored. To many, it symbolized the battle between childlike fun and adult fears. Scooby-Doo and the 13 Ghosts, 1985. Scooby-Doo had been a staple since the late 60s, but the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo gave the classic formula a darker, more supernatural twist. This short-lived series introduced Vincent Price as Vincent Van Ghoul, guiding Scooby and Shaggy as they hunted real ghosts. It was bolder, spookier, and far riskier than its predecessors, and that risk came with controversy. Parents complained that the monsters weren't just guys in masks anymore. These ghosts were real, conjuring imagery that critics said bordered on the occult. Religious groups blasted the series for exposing children to sorcery, magic, and frightening supernatural themes. Some even argued it was psychologically damaging for younger audiences who weren't ready for such eerie content. Behind the scenes, Hanna-Barbera faced mounting pressure. Though the darker tone intrigued older fans, networks worried about backlash and pulled the plug after just one season. Rumors circulated that Vincent Price himself loved the series, but was disappointed by how quickly it was buried. Over time, however, the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo developed a cult following. Its willingness to push boundaries made it stand apart, even if it sparked controversy during its original run. Today, it's remembered as a fascinating anomaly, proof that even light-hearted icons like Scooby-Doo weren't safe from complaints about hidden dangers and forbidden themes. DuckTales, on 1987. When DuckTales debuted, it felt like a bright, adventurous breath of fresh air. Scrooge McDuck, alongside nephews Huey, Dewey, and Louie, embarked on globe-trotting adventures filled with treasure hunts, villains, and heartwarming family lessons. It quickly became one of Disney's most successful cartoons of the decade, yet even this seemingly harmless show wasn't free from controversy. Some critics accused DuckTales of promoting greed, pointing to Scrooge's obsession with wealth and his iconic money bin dives. Others argued the show leaned too heavily on stereotypes, particularly in its depiction of certain foreign villains and exotic lands. Complaints rolled in from advocacy groups who believed the series reinforced negative cultural tropes. Behind the scenes, Disney wrestled with these criticisms while balancing its global reach. Certain episodes were quietly altered or edited for reruns, with dialogue softened to avoid cultural insensitivity. Parents also voiced concerns about the frequent peril in episodes, characters caught in explosions, kidnappings, or dangerous stunts, though it was always framed with humor. Despite the backlash, DuckTales thrived, becoming a cornerstone of Disney afternoon programming and inspiring reboots decades later. Its legacy is both adventurous and complicated, a beloved childhood favorite accused of teaching questionable values. To many, it showed how even wholesome family cartoons weren't immune from deeper cultural complaints. Silverhawks, 1986. From the creators of Thundercats came Silverhawks, a space-age saga about cybernetic heroes battling Monstar and his gang of galactic criminals. With shiny armor, futuristic weapons, and rock-inspired villains, it looked like a recipe for success. And while it gained a loyal fan base, it also sparked a wave of criticism. Parents and advocacy groups complained about the violence. The battles featured laser guns, starship dogfights, and villains who often seemed more terrifying than child-friendly. Religious groups added fuel, claiming the sinister design of Monstar and his transformations carried demonic undertones. Even the heavy metal-inspired soundtrack raised eyebrows, seen as corrupting young audiences. Behind the scenes, the production team faced constant pressure to scale things back. Networks hesitated at times, worried about complaints over the show's darker tone. As with many cartoons tied to toy sales, critics blasted Silverhawks as another marketing machine disguised as storytelling. Despite the noise, Silverhawks carved its own cult status. It didn't reach the mainstream heights of Thundercats, but fans remember it as daring and imaginative. Its controversy only added to its mystique. For some, it was just another flashy action series. For others, it was a glimpse into how children's entertainment could blur into unsettling territory, sparking fears of hidden influence. BraveStarr, 1987. BraveStarr was unlike anything else in the 1980s animation landscape. Set on the distant planet of New Texas, it featured a Native American lawman with mystical animal powers, eyes of the hawk, ears of the wolf, strength of the bear. With his robotic horse, 3030, BraveStarr defended settlers from villains like Tex Hex. On paper, it was bold and imaginative. In reality, it became deeply controversial. Parents complained that the show's constant gunfights and shootouts were too violent for children. Religious groups added fuel, accusing it of glorifying occult powers through BraveStarr's spiritual abilities. Advocacy organizations criticized the portrayal of Native American heritage, claiming it reduced culture to gimmicky powers and stereotypes. Some even pushed networks to cancel it outright. Behind the scenes, the creators genuinely aimed to break new ground with diversity and moral lessons. But they clashed with executives and critics over tone and content. The series tried to redeem itself by including morality lessons at the end of episodes, yet complaints persisted. Ratings suffered, and despite its innovation, the show faded after a single season. In hindsight, BraveStarr stands as a symbol of ambition colliding with controversy. It dared to be different, yet became proof that bold ideas could spark more complaints than applause. Care Bears, 1985. Care Bears should have been untouchable. Cute, colorful animals spreading kindness through magical Care Bear stares. It was sweetness incarnate. Children adored it, and parents initially welcomed its gentle moral lessons. But soon, critics began raising unexpected alarms. Some accused the show of emotional manipulation, arguing it used guilt-driven morality to pressure children into obedience. Others complained that despite its wholesome facade, it was still a marketing ploy, an elaborate campaign to sell plush toys, lunchboxes, and endless merchandise. Religious groups joined in, saying the show's magical powers flirted with New Age mysticism, inappropriate for kids. Behind the scenes, animators worked tirelessly to maintain a balance between storytelling and merchandising. Networks, however, faced complaints from parents who thought the characters were oversimplifying complex emotions. Some even argued the show gave children unrealistic expectations about solving problems with love beams. Despite backlash, Care Bears became a juggernaut, spawning movies, spin-offs, and global recognition. Its legacy is fascinating, adored for its message of love and kindness, yet criticized as one of the most manipulative franchises of its time. To many, it proved even the sweetest cartoons weren't safe from adult suspicion. Garfield and Friends, 1988. Garfield had already captured hearts in comic strips before his animated debut. Garfield and Friends brought the lazy, lasagna-loving cat to television, pairing him with Odie, John, and a cast of quirky farm animals. The humor was dry, sarcastic, and often aimed as much at adults as kids. And that's where controversy emerged. Parents complained about Garfield's constant sarcasm and laziness, fearing children would imitate his disdain for work and authority. Critics argued the humor was too cynical for young audiences, pointing to episodes where Garfield mocked everything from holidays to human behavior. Others worried the show blurred the line between family entertainment and adult satire. Behind the scenes, writers pushed boundaries intentionally. They saw Garfield as a chance to elevate children's television with sharper wit. But networks faced pressure to tone things down, often cutting edgier jokes. Advocacy groups also questioned whether mocking gluttony and laziness as humor encouraged unhealthy habits. Despite complaints, Garfield and Friends became a long-running success, adored for its humor and uniqueness. Its legacy endures as both a beloved adaptation and an example of how comedy, even wrapped in cartoons, could spark debates about values. To some, it was harmless fun. To others, it was a warning sign of cultural cynicism creeping into children's TV. M.A.S.K., 1985. Mobile Armored Strike. Command, better known as M.A.S.K., combined the best of Transformers and G.I. Joe. Heroes piloted transforming vehicles, battling the criminal organization. Venom with high-tech helmets and gadgets. The concept was a dream for kids, and toy sales soared. But it also fueled controversy. Parents worried about the constant gunfights, car chases, and explosions. Critics accused the show of normalizing violence and reckless driving. Others argued that its very existence blurred storytelling with product advertising, since nearly every character and vehicle was linked directly to toy lines. Some schools even reported children reenacting dangerous stunts during recess. Behind the scenes, producers walked a tightrope. They added safety lessons and softened scenes where violence escalated too far. Yet the marketing-first mentality was undeniable, and watchdogs kept the pressure on. In certain countries, M.A.S.K. faced restrictions or edits, with some episodes withheld entirely. Despite backlash, the show built a devoted following. Fans loved the blend of espionage, adventure, and futuristic vehicles. But its legacy remains mixed. A cult favorite to children of the 80s, yet remembered by critics as one of the clearest examples of cartoons doubling as commercials. To many, M.A.S.K. was the thrill of the future and the controversy of the present. Robotech, 1985. Robotech was groundbreaking. Adapted from Japanese anime, it brought complex storytelling, romance, and intergalactic war to Western audiences. Unlike most 1980s cartoons, its characters aged, changed, and sometimes even died. For older kids and teens, it felt revolutionary. But for parents, it was alarming. Complaints poured in about the violence and darker themes. Fighter jets clashed in space, cities were destroyed, and human casualties were hinted at, shocking parents used to sanitized American shows. Religious groups attacked its depictions of alien technology and idols, claiming they blurred morality. Others argued it wasn't appropriate for younger children because of its tragic undertones. Behind the scenes, U.S. producers heavily edited the original anime to soften its tone, but the mature content still slipped through. Episodes were sometimes censored or pulled, depending on the region. Critics also complained that the show's serialized format, rare for children's TV, pressured kids to keep watching for fear of missing key plot developments. Despite the backlash, Robotech built a devoted fan base. It introduced anime to a generation and remains a cult classic. Its legacy is clear, both a daring experiment and a lightning rod for controversy. It proved cartoons didn't need to stay childish, but that daring came with a cost. Rainbow Brite, 1984. Rainbow Brite burst onto screens with dazzling colors and a message of hope. Rainbow Brite, alongside her friends and magical horse Starlight, spread color and joy across the universe, battling the dark forces of Murky and Lurky. To children, it was a world of whimsy. To parents and critics, it was something else entirely. Complaints centered on the show's commercialization. Advocacy groups accused it of being little more than a marketing scheme for dolls, lunchboxes, and clothing. Religious groups, meanwhile, attacked its magical powers, calling them occult imagery disguised in pastel hues. Some critics even claimed the show promoted conformity and empty optimism at the expense of realism. Behind the scenes, the show's production was rushed to coincide with toy launches, leading to rumors of creative clashes. Some episodes were criticized for being formulaic, adding fuel to claims it was advertising disguised as storytelling. Still, Rainbow Brite endured as a beloved memory for millions. Its bright palette and cheerful message carved a place in pop culture even as the complaints lingered. To some, it was innocence itself. To others, proof that even cheerful rainbows could carry hidden storms. My Little Pony, 1986. My Little Pony became a defining franchise of the 1980s, enchanting children with its pastel-colored ponies, magical adventures, and gentle lessons about friendship. With castles, villains, and whimsical lands, it seemed harmless. Yet parents and critics soon cried foul. Complaints focused on its relentless commercialization. Each new pony character felt like a thinly veiled toy advertisement. Advocacy groups accused the show of exploiting children by tying emotions and morality directly to products. Religious groups piled on, criticizing the magical elements as witchcraft in disguise. Some parents also claimed the villains, with their eerie designs, were too frightening for young children. Behind the curtain, Hasbro's influence loomed large. Episodes were often tied to toy launches, creating tension between writers and executives. Critics argued it cheapened storytelling, reducing imagination to product placement. Certain countries even restricted broadcasts, wary of its consumer-driven model. Despite all this, My Little Pony endured, resurfacing in later decades with massive success. Its legacy is dual, adored for its sweetness and community, yet condemned for being one of the clearest examples of toy-driven media. For many, it symbolized both the charm and the controversy of 1980s cartoons. Battle of the Planets, 1980 U.S. syndication. Though originally from Japan's science ninja team Gatchaman, Battle of the Planets became a U.S. phenomenon in the early 80s. Its 5 young heroes, G-Force, fought alien invaders with martial arts, futuristic vehicles, and teamwork. It thrilled audiences, but it also rattled parents. Complaints poured in over violence. The original anime had darker storylines, and even though American editors softened them, sword fights, explosions, and high-stakes battles remained. Religious groups objected to its alien villains, accusing the show of introducing children to frightening spiritual themes. Others worried it blurred cultural lines, exposing children to foreign storytelling deemed too mature. Behind the scenes, the M.A.S.K. American adaptation cut entire plot lines involving death or destruction, but fans noticed the gaps. Advocacy groups criticized the editing as dishonest, while parents remained unconvinced it was safe for kids. Some networks pulled episodes entirely, labeling them too intense. Despite the controversy, Battle of the Planets left a huge mark. It paved the way for anime in the West and built a cult following that still thrives. Its legacy is one of innovation shadowed by fear, proof that even heroes saving the planet could be accused of endangering children's minds. Beavis and Butt-Head, 1989 pilot run. Though it exploded in the 1990s, Beavis and Butt-Head technically debuted with experimental shorts in 1989, closing the decade with controversy. Crude, irreverent, and gleefully inappropriate, it followed 2 dim-witted teens mocking music videos and causing chaos. Audiences were shocked. It wasn't like any cartoon that came before. Parents complained loudly. Advocacy groups claimed it encouraged disrespect, stupidity, and dangerous behavior. Reports even surfaced of children imitating stunts from the show. Politicians entered the debate, accusing the cartoon of corrupting youth. Networks faced intense pressure, leading to edits, content warnings, and episodes pulled from rotation. Behind the scenes, MTV leaned into the controversy, marketing it as rebellious and edgy. While some critics condemned it as trash, others praised its satirical lens on culture. But make no mistake, the backlash was real and fierce, with the show's very existence questioned. Despite the uproar, Beavis and Butt-Head became iconic, influencing decades of animated satire. Its legacy is paradoxical, born in controversy, but remembered as groundbreaking. It proved that cartoons weren't just for kids, and that shock could become a cultural weapon. The 1980s gave us more than colorful heroes and catchy theme songs. It gave us battles over values, hidden meanings, and the power of children's media. Some cartoons vanished under pressure, others became legends. But the question remains, were these shows innocent fun or cultural time bombs? Comment your thoughts, subscribe for more deep dives, and stay curious.